So, my name is Erin. I always forget to do an introductory slide, but I am a data professional, and I wanted to do this talk on natural language processing, text mining, and data storage, document storage, primarily using MongoDB because it's a great tool for that kind of thing. So, title here, words, familiar quote from Shakespeare, textual data and document storage. And I pulled out, again, a little bit more on the literary side, this quote that I'm sure people are familiar with from Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was age of wisdom, foolishness. Because I think it's just a great example of what we might want to use natural language processing for. If people are not familiar with sentiment analysis, it's a really interesting component of sentiment analysis because you can take a snip like this of text, be it Charles Dickens or a customer survey, something that's incoming or actually business pertinent, and run it through an algorithm to determine what the average sentiment around it is. Positive, negative, neutral, with a little bit more detail. I just put the overall sentiment here being negative because how'd you really be able to tell? That was kind of his purpose in writing this very dichotomic quote here. Best, worst, wisdom, foolishness, belief, incredulity. So something like this, you need a little bit of machine learning help to decipher. Maybe it's the overall tone of the uplifting words of Charles Dickens. Maybe it's something else that's kind of giving us this overall negative sentiment. And it's not just literature that we can do textual analysis on. We can do it on a wide spectrum of text data. You know, if we wanted to get an overall sense of how people are talking about market conditions or what people are talking about in the news pertaining to a specific subject that impacts our business or international travel or something that might have a real impact on us, our business, or how we interact with other people, sentiment analysis is a great way to not only judge how people are feeling about it, but parse out that text and be able to act on it. If there's something that you can derive as a negative entity that, say, your customers are talking about, you can identify that, parse it out, get it to your services team, and they can fix that. That's actionable data there. I put this up here because I think it's really important to remember that we live in a world of words. You know, real-world examples are all over the place, whether it's product reviews or blog posts or just the world of social media that we're living in right now. It's all text data all the time. So the data set that I was able to pull was an open data set from Kaggle.com. Lots of great data over there. This one was particularly interesting because it fell into a lot of these categories. Great textual, unstructured data that was scraped from several websites, and I believe it was Twitter profiles of product reviews for different wines. So it's kind of a hoot when you read about wine analyses. Now, big proponent of the right tool for the right job. You could force all of this textual data into a relational database or some other storage mechanism, but a document data store like Mongo is really the right way to do it. It lets you store unstructured JSON objects as documents, along with long text strings, lots of different metadata about the documents, and really get away from this relational tabular structure into storing all of the information that might be pertinent surrounding a single entity together in one space. This is just a little bit more about how Mongo specifically stores all that information. It does not have a SQL-like query language, so getting used to the Mongo shell or using one of these drivers is definitely how to interact with it. Very easy to do, and it does have a community edition, so if you're interested in learning a little bit more about it, it's very easy to get involved with. Just going through a little bit of how to work with Mongo. You can, of course, work with Node.js. I know that's a very big language around here. Or you can work, as I do, primarily directly through the shell. I pasted here what a single document looks like. This would be just a sample of one of the documents in the wine reviews data set, where you can see some of the information that they decided to store related to the wine reviews. The points that it was awarded by the reviewer, the region it comes from, the review itself, which is always a hoot, the reviewer's Twitter handle, the price, which I don't believe is actually null. That would be great. The variety, and a little bit more about where it is from. So there's lots of ways that you can actually explore that data itself through the shell, or any of the other drivers, of course. Not just focused on text processing. You might be able to find, for instance, which type of wine is more frequently awarded higher points, or which one is more often cheaper, what regions are good for what varieties, that type of stuff. So a data set like this is very rich, of course, not just focused on the textual analysis portion of it, but in a world like the one we're in right now, we have to focus, especially in my profession, on getting away from thinking of data as just these numeric applications. I put some statistics up here that floored even me. I found that in 2013, Twitter was producing 50 million tweets per day. I don't know what it's up to right now, but you can see the growth chart down there, and I can only imagine that it's kept up a rate like that. The average millennial, that's all of us, spends over 2 hours a day on social media. And we're not just browsing. We're producing content constantly. And like I said in the beginning, this is all very meaningful. It's not just, chatting messages with your friends. It's the stuff that we do all the time. We're talking about what matters in our industries. We're interacting with our customers. We're talking about geopolitical climates. And if we're not able to actually ingest this data, store it, process it, and then act on it, we're definitely losing out on what matters to us around the world. So Mongo is a great tool for the ingestion and storage of a lot of these textual data sets. Lots of great natural language processing tools out there for sentiment analysis and other work with textual data. Very important. So, any questions? That's all I had. Great. I believe Brooklyn.